Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365 on this Friday. Welcome, Greg Soulje. Well, glad to have you back with us here today.
Nice to be back with you today for some of us here in North Illinois and back into Iowa and across kind of this central Corn Belt area as it applies to the southern Great Lakes and mid-Mississippi Valley to be dumping rain out of the rain gauge, and more rain than spiders or spider webs in those gauges.
Well, let me show you. I took a
Yes.
picture for you here this morning in the wee hours. There's my rain gauge, 3 inches in Kane County, Northern Illinois. And I know you're a little farther north. And what you have?
I'm
went there.
Yeah, I didn't take a picture, did dump it out, but when I'm about 4 miles west of the Lake Michigan shoreline and about 4 miles south from the Wisconsin line, and we had 0.6 of an inch. Now, we had about 10 days, 2 weeks ago, about 1.5 inches worth of rain right here in this particular part of northern Lake County. So we are kind of okay, but there are a lot of other folks in northern Illinois, extreme southern Wisconsin. This is really the worst of the eastern Corn Belt drought, if you will, and then extends down to about Champaign, Danville. But improvement is coming. Hang in there, folks. The rain is coming, and there's a lot of it coming, and a nice mid-July cool off as well. And we'll talk about that here in our little weather update.
Well, that sounds like some good weather news. Let's put those slides up and let you get to it.
Okay, and happy Friday to one and all, and really as a whole, when you take in the entire Corn Belt, from the eastern and southeastern fringes of the Dakotas to parts of Ohio, maybe even western Pennsylvania, and a little south of Missouri and Ohio. U.S. corn crop rating 74% in the good to excellent condition range as of a couple of days after the 4th of July. Putting that into perspective, it was July of 2018, as you can see there. When was the last time we had this amount of the corn and most likely even soybean fields? And actually that applies to them as well, that are in this upper echelon of good to excellent ratings. Again, there are pockets, there are some issues in select areas where whether you had too much rain in some spots to the far south Corn Belt, not enough rain of late in the at least northern reaches of Illinois, parts of Iowa, southern Wisconsin, but great subsoil moisture levels. So we continue on, and there's been no real extreme, long-lasting heat around here. We may be looking at readings up around the 92-degree range as far north as maybe Champaign and Vermilion County, Illinois, and Indiana. They got a couple of farm shows going on down there. This will be like the hottest day. Rains are coming there. Not the degree that we're going to see over the western Corn Belt areas in the southern Great Lakes region, but even next week into those far eastern and southern Corn Belt locales as we transition into, for mid-July, you'd want to call it a cool weather pattern. There's no extreme heat or humidity, well, at least heat expected around here. So we take that element of stress out of the corn and soybean fields, save with livestock operations as well. So across the Corn Belt as a whole, we're in relatively good shape. And we'll take a look at the dryness and drought issues over the mid-Mississippi Valley, southern Great Lakes areas of the Corn Belt in just a bit. Winter wheat harvest continues to make progress. The rains have been winding down through the at least central plains. They're picking up over the Dakotas, and we're getting some drier time too into areas of Texas and the western Gulf Coast. By July 6th, about a half of the winter wheat had been harvested. That's just a couple of percentage points within earshot of the usual 5-year averages. So we continue to move along there. Basically, the hotter, drier weather pattern prior to the rains of earlier in the week have benefited harvest operations. Drier weather moving into flood-ravaged areas of south central Texas. Of course, just I think 2 or 3 days ago, we had almost the same setup in a southeastern and southern New Mexico. Flash flooding, loss of life, all of a sudden heavy downpours of rain on these rock-hard grounds. You'll see where the dryness and drought continues in the Rio Grande Valley. But apart from that, basically it is a drier and much needed drier spell of weather in the deep south and southeast. Good looking pasture lands, cotton, sorghum. The Carolinas, at least drying out from the 5 to 10 inches of rain from early in this week from tropical system Chantal. That's out to sea. And there's some signs of maybe a little weakness in the Gulf Stream or the eastern or northeastern Gulf of Mexico, which may enhance rainfall in that part of the country going forward. But things are just incredibly quiet, even for kind of an early-ish, tropical weather season in the Atlantic, and likely to stay that way, I think, here for the next couple of 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe very well into August before things ramped up. And that could be a benefit to the Corn Belt locales in parts of the plains. 118-degree heat noted back on the 9th of July at Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix. So it's been a hot one, and they're redefining that. They seem to do it each and every year. The fire threat's been moving a little farther south into areas of the Four Corners as kind of the monsoon setup is kind of reestablishing itself in a somewhat different direction and orientation. It'll get going again later in the week, that particular part of the country. So usual fire situation across the Great Basin, Four Corners, Intermountain West, couple of showers, thunderstorms out towards Yellowstone, and the heat continues on in the desert Southwest. There's the drought update, the outlook, I should say, not the outlook, the update for as of July 8th. And you can see still holding on through northern parts of the plains and some deterioration. We'll zoom in on this in just a second through northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. Everybody else in the Corn Belt, most of the Corn Belt areas are doing okay. Michigan, a little dry, parts of northwest Indiana. But again, good subsoil moisture levels. And without any extreme long-lasting heat, there's been minimal leaf curl going on. Nice waxy leaves on the corn plants are saying in that V8, V10 range into central Illinois for my radio pals out there. And still ongoing dryness and drought, although we've seen some pockets of improvement across Nebraska. It either rains a couple of inches, has 2-inch hailstorms and hail balls coming out of the sky, or nothing at all. So they're doing a big time out there in the Cornhusker State. There is the more kind of a zoomed in look at the Midwest as it applies to Illinois and Michigan. You can see some of those far southern counties of Wisconsin, more so as you get out into north central Illinois, and parts of maybe the Kankakee River Basin are actually in right now a categorical severe drought in a couple of small county areas there. But that's the corridor where we've seen recent rain, and there's more rain coming, and there's more rain next week. So without any extreme heat, rain in the forecast, don't think we have any big issues going on. And this is not the start of the drought that we've been talking about that we continue to go more and more bearish on. I think it's going to all have to do with the tropics and the Atlantic. When that gets going, then we can build that hot ridge over the middle part of the country. And by the time that happens, and considering that we're in an almost an early, more rapid, more significantly developed crop out there, especially the corn side, maybe it's an early harvest year this year. And hopefully as well, we continue to get some meaningful rain on some of these plain states areas too for cattle country back west of the Missouri. And a bunch of frontal boundaries. They're weak. They're slow moving. You actually monitor weather and move weather systems by the behavior of these thunderstorm complexes. We'll see more come out of Iowa, more developing through areas of Michigan, scattered across the Gulf Coast off the Outer Banks, and pretty quiet weather picture for now across the southwestern part of the country, except for the heat out there. And you can see a couple of more fronts making their way out of the northern plains. Overnight tonight, the showers and thunderstorms pick up out of the western Corn Belt. They are heading beeline to the east and northeast for the day tomorrow. That more significantly drawn cold front from Minnesota back through Nebraska has more substantially cooler air, but more importantly, drier air, lower humidity, lower dew points, as opposed to 60s and 70s dew points back into the mid to upper 50s and low to mid 60s, kind of the threshold for getting uncomfortable out there. Showers, thunderstorms continue to well up into the heat of the day, and the Gulf moisture and the white grounds and all that. No problem making rain over the southeastern states. And nice to see in that I-4 corridor to the down not the Ozarks, but the Everglades down into areas of South Florida get some meaningful rainfall apart from and away from any tropical weather systems going on down there. By tomorrow morning, showers and thunderstorms in a couple of areas beneficial, and hopefully they're done with winter wheat harvest across Colorado. Let the rains pick up there, maybe severe again in through New Mexico. Flash flood potential there gets going again for the day tomorrow. Some pretty good soaking rains overnight tonight and tomorrow morning out of northern Missouri, much of central and eastern Iowa, moving into western and northern Illinois. They will move into the upper Midwestern reaches by Saturday evening, and then we'll see those areas of rain down through Oklahoma and Missouri make their way east-northeast, and they should build through the rest of the Corn Belt areas by Sunday. That's the first of two stronger weather systems on the move across the middle part of the country. Another one that we'll see on the maps and charts has a little more up air support, maybe better likelihood of severe weather, but better organization of the rainfall. Again, northern and central plains, northern and central Corn Belt areas, key areas that need more rain, whether it's pasture lands, rangelands, or corn and soybean fields. Rains come back into play, unfortunately, down through Oklahoma and Texas, and they're still scattered across the Gulf Coast area. Here's the next 48 hours centered on Oklahoma, northern Texas, west of the Metroplex, and a pretty good bullseye of 1 to 2, maybe 2.5 inches out of northern Missouri, eastern Iowa, northern and western Illinois, and anywhere between a half and maybe an inch and a quarter through Michigan, and that same southwest to northeast up through some area of Michigan that needs rain too. Rain totals for now will back off into that 10th to quarter, maybe some outly or 3/4 inch rains over the rest of the eastern and southern Corn Belt, but there is more coming. Severe weather, might be a couple stronger storms to stay heads up for over northern Illinois, parts of Iowa and Missouri this afternoon. Tomorrow, that'll be shifting through Michigan, Indiana, as well as Ohio. There is the tropical weather picture from the satellite. This is the infrared channel, it looks like. And again, you keep watching. You want to watch for buildups and clumps of whiter clouds down here off the African coast. A little something coming off. But this huge area of just absolute clear skies has high pressure, which is good, but the wind field is strong. It's above about 15, 20 knots or 20, 25 miles per hour up at thunderstorm levels. So shear becomes an issue. Nothing to get really cooked up or cranked up off the African coast. We may get a little disturbed weather in the southwest Atlantic, eastern Gulf at some point next week. That'll just really enhance the rainfall prospects of the southeastern part of the country. So the next 5 days, series of frontal boundaries, cold fronts. It's just really drier air behind these fronts that'll be moving on and not necessarily super cooler, but a more comfortable go of it for outdoor work and livestock duties. Next 5 days are on the move out of the western states across the plains to the Atlantic coast. Each one generates a pretty good outbreak of showers and thunderstorms. Cumulatively speaking, most areas, so the central plains, northern plains, Corn Belt areas, Ohio Valley and east, likely in the next probably 5 to 7 days, we'll see 1 to 2. There'll be some pockets of locally heavier 3 to 4 inch totals on top of what you've seen already. So for July, almost mid-July, this is as good as we can do for you outside of bringing like a tropical weather system in off the Gulf or the Atlantic. Hot weather continues across the western states. They'll head back into that 110 to 115 degree range in the coming days. The more significant, at least heavy rainfall prospects, unfortunately, New Mexico, that's a flash flood area. High Plains areas out of Big Sky country down through northern New Mexico. Sometimes that's a flash flood area too. You can see organized rains out of much of the northern through western Corn Belt areas and over parts of the eastern states as well. So if it's not the heat and humidity, it's going to be rain. And this is a pretty significant wet pattern for mid-July. You don't get the better coverages or even distributions of rainfall typically this time of the year. So this is a little bit at least unseasonably active, put it that way. That's what the radio term we've been kicking around on the radio of late. A lot more busier than you'd expect for mid-July. The next 7 days, big rains down through Old Mexico. That's probably some semblance of a tropical system coming in. Northern and western Texas, Cotton Belt country, heart of the south end of winter wheat. Get those fields juiced up, ready to go for planting operations down the line here in the next couple of months. And then look at the rain over the Corn Belt areas, heaviest in through eastern Iowa, northwest and northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, just what the weather doctor has ordered. Nice to see some rains on the alligators and crocodiles down there in Alligator Alley, and Florida Everglades are going to get wetter down there in what continues to be a drought-ridden weather pattern. Probably of interest here, and you don't have to be a meteorologist to understand what we're going to talk about here. You can see the northern ribbon of lines, winds, if you will. They're out of western Canada. They hug the U.S.-Canadian border. A couple of H's, that's hot, high pressure. A couple of weak lows down through Old Mexico. That's tropical moisture, maybe even a tropical feature named out of the Pacific, not the Atlantic. Another example, still El Nino, no matter what the feds say. In any event, you can see those H's are still there, but the jet stream, the main polar and rain-producing jet, is auguring southward with time, getting perhaps by Thursday, Friday, all the way down to just about the I-80 corridor. That's a pretty cool air up aloft. That's an easier mechanism to make clouds grow and make rain when these little troughs and frontal systems come on through. And as opposed to maybe mid-90s, mid to upper 80s for high temperatures, it's not necessarily cool, but it could be a whole lot worse. And it will feel a whole lot better with time over the middle part of the country in this particular setup. Tuesday, Wednesday, you see another front on the move out of the plains into the Corn Belt. Another good covering of showers and thunderstorms. A little more significant high in that strengthening branch of polar jet stream winds across the upper Midwest and western Great Lakes region. So a push of cooler, drier, comfortable air for mid-July over the northern and central plains Corn Belt locales. But anytime you get on the backside of the high, you get that warm front, that red hatched area in the plains. That usually an indicator you're going to pop these thunderstorm clusters. And so the rain opportunities are still here. We're not going to move into an extended dry spell at all. at least seasonal rain. Some folks maybe even better than that going forward. In the next 6 to 10 days, it is a cooler weather pattern. Again, you normally see the last line here, if you will, up along the U.S.-Canadian border and northward. And you don't. It's actually suppressed farther south. Two things: opportunities for additional rain in the plains and Corn Belt locales. And that just basically means everything is kind of strengthening wind field top to bottom, north to south of the atmosphere. So you again think that, okay, wind shear is still going to be an issue in the Gulf and the Atlantic. So going to be hard pressed to get anything. If it's named, it's a weak, primarily rainmaker moving forward, and that's it. So the beat goes on with ample rain opportunities. No endorsement, the right idea, maybe a little overdone, but no heat for the middle part of the country for livestock operations, corn and soybean fields, and the wet weather pattern relative to the time of year continues on. A little concerned about flash flooding again through New Mexico, West Texas, cotton and cattle country, and overall opportunities here to make some additional rain in the plains and the Corn Belt going forward through at least the third week of the month of July. We'll have our 4-week forecast that takes us to, I believe, the first couple of days of the month of August on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. You'll see a little better timing perspective on things and when the heat does return. And we will have an updated outlook on This Week in Agribusiness on the summertime season. Sarah and I have already talked about that here on our last live stream. And our next one coming up is July 23rd at 1 o'clock Central Time. And don't foresee any big changes going forward. There won't be any big surprises on This Week in Agribusiness on next weekend's, not this one, next weekend show. The guys were out there in Iowa, I believe. And I think it rained out there when they were taping the show Wednesday and Thursday this past. And they needed the rain out there around the Des Moines, Iowa area. So that's pretty much it, Sarah. Plenty of opportunity for rain, some comfortable days, no stress on man, beast, nor the back 40. The tropics are quiet. I think our work is done here.
Our work is done here, Greg. Yeah. All ready for a great weekend, it sounds like. Maybe a little rain, but at least some cooler temps. And looking forward to it. We'll catch up with you next week on Tuesday and Friday. And then, like you mentioned, the following week on that Wednesday, the 23rd, is our big overall outlook for the longer term outlook. So put that on your calendar, 1 p.m. here on Feedstuffs 365.
We'll refine that the summer outlook going forward, have maybe a little more pinpointing on when the tropics are going. I think it's going to be August, tell you the truth. And maybe a sneak peek into the harvest season. It may be early and often there too, as we usually say about voting in the Chicagoland area. So early and often.
Very good. Right. Exactly. All right. Well, Greg, thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing all that great information. And thank you all for tuning in as well.